Imagine being a person that was once held in high regard. A person that technically helped out probably about like 400,000 people in his time. Only to have everything crumble to the ground due to falling into some questionable practices, resulting in you falling off the face of the earth. We'll be investigating a disappearance that's confused the masses in regards to where is Jimmy Hoffa? James Riddle Hoffa.
James Riddle Hoffa.
With that said, grab your headphones, turn off the lights, and join us as we dive deep into the case that still hasn't been fully solved. Following the murder we spoke, where we shift gears to this episode a little bit to something a little more mysterious. As we said, I'm Matt.
I'm Rachel.
Join us as we ponder, where in the world is Jimmy Hoffa? So, here we go, this James Jimmy Hoffa.
The man of the hour.
It is. So, he was a labor union leader. He served as president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which, of course, is a labor union. And technically, he worked both for Canada. He was the president of the Canadian portion as well as the American portion.
Nuts.
Yeah, so that's where the international comes in. So, he dealt with a lot of the, like, trucking and shipping and
I did
things
hear
of
he
that
was a
nature.
really good person before everything happened.
yeah.
Like, he was... At least people seemed he was a good person.
Yeah, for the most part, he did
Not
good
everybody's
work
a good
up
person.
until, like, stuff went on where it came into, like, bribing and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's like he started
That's
with
the
good
way.
intentions.
He did. I mean, his family was born into kind of like poverty, if I remember correctly. And that's what kind of caused him to be like, you know what? I really should be standing up for people that are of the working class, like my parents and whatnot. So he worked with the whole International Brotherhood of Teamsters from when he was like a teenager, worked his way to like vice president by, I want to say, like his earlier mid-20s. And from there, he was the president. You know, he stuck with the whole thing and really helped a lot of people out. So, obviously, it's like, what happened to Jimmy Hoffa?
He's under the MetLife.
That is...
He's under the MetLife
there
Coliseum.
is discussions about stuff like that.
Yes.
So, on July 30th, 1975, he was scheduled to meet with a crime family. So, Anthony Provenzano of the Genovese crime family of the New Jersey faction, and Anthony Giancalone, or Giancalone?
John Cologne.
Hopefully I'm not butchering these names, of the Detroit Partnership. So the whole meeting didn't really go as planned. Both Provenzano and Giancalone stood Jimmy up. So they were supposed to meet at like a little restaurant. Nobody showed up. He ended up calling his wife and relayed that nobody showed up. He's like, I got stood up. He was really angry, furious. And so he's like, whatever, you know what? I'll be home by 4 o'clock. I'll cook us some steaks. We'll relax. So Jimmy was seen leaving in a maroon Lincoln or Mercury vehicle with 3 other people. But after that, he was never seen again.
Yeah. So I've heard.
So, and if I remember the person correctly, I believe it was a relative of Giancalone.
Yeah, they like picked him up like he knew somebody.
Yeah,
that was
so
picking him up.
it was a group of people that seemed friendly, nothing suspicious, just never returned thereafter.
Yeah.
So
It was from like was it from a
Yeah,
restaurant or a
yeah.
diner?
Yep.
Yeah. Where it was like he was picked up and the rest is history.
Unfortunately, it's one of those things because, as we'll find out again, it's nobody knows what the heck happened.
In New Jersey, it's well known. The rumor has it he's underneath the MetLife Coliseum.
That's
Like
what
where
the
that is, like in
speculation
that cement underneath. That's at least they said you'll never ever find him. It's too late. Don't even go looking for him. Like, yeah.
So, in regards to the investigation, Jimmy was reported missing on July 30th, 1975 by his son. You'd think it would have been his wife, but the wife calls up the son, is like, your father never returned home last night, didn't get to make us steaks,
How dare he not make us steaks?
never came home, and, I'm letting you know now, I'm not going to let the police know. So after that, he calls up the police. He's like, listen, my father never returned home and whatnot. Don't know what's going on. One of his friends was surprisingly, well, I think we'll even touch upon that later, but one of his friends was surprisingly able to find his car in like the morning. And I was like, oh, that's weird. The car's alive. There's nothing. I don't know what's going on. So with the Michigan State Police and the FBI, you know, they were on the case to find out what may have happened to Jimmy. But they were and continue to be unsuccessful about finding where he might be.
And I know there's a ton of theories about it.
Oh, there are. So this is what we're getting into.
Yes.
We're getting into the meat and veg. I only put a couple because there were quite a bit that I was reading.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, I never knew that this was something that had so many different theories behind it, or so much speculation. There's so many people giving contradictory statements, or like,
because people come forward and they're like, I know where he was because I'm the one who disposed of him.
But it seems like a lot of people are trying to sell like a story or a book or something, or even an article. It's wild, like the stuff that came up. I was like, oh my God, the only thing I knew is this guy went missing. It was a big deal. There was crime involved. I didn't realize that there was so many different stories about what may have happened. So possible theory of many. Number one, Hoffa was killed on the orders of alleged New Jersey mob figure Anthony Tony Provenzano. His body was ground up in little pieces, shipped to Florida, and thrown in a swamp.
Oh my God. Now, how would you ship that?
A drive down? I mean, it's...
In a box.
Probably.
I would think they would do
unless they packaged it like in a butcher's factory, And I was just like, meh. So this theory was relayed by Charles Allen. He was a mafia murderer. But the thing is that the FBI were unable to gather enough evidence to prove that this was actually something that was a credible theory. Another theory of many. Number two, Hoffa was abducted by either federal marshals or federal agents, driven to a nearby airport and dropped out of a plane, possibly into one of the Great Lakes that surround Michigan.
I've also heard that one too.
That one was, all of these were new. I was like, oh my God. So this theory was noted in a book written by Hoffa's former aide, Joseph Franco, called Hoffa's Man. But besides Joseph's claim, that was pretty much it. It was just another claim. Wasn't anything else to really back up this story or anything. So it's like, did that really happen? Or are you just trying to sell your Hoffa's Man book?
Bet it's to sell them a Hoffa's Man book. I don't know. Like, you have to think about like the plausibility of like, if I was a mobster, how would I get rid of somebody? Like, realistically, not even like in a biased sense. Like, if I was if you were a mobster, how would you get rid of somebody?
I mean, the whole ground up and fed the gators sound like a real...
Yeah, but that means you would have to ship it from here to Florida. Like,
there was a movie
you could
called
just dump it in the water, in the sea.
Yeah, that's true.
And just go out and like
I mean, Jersey's nearby. You got Jersey Shore and whatnot.
Hey, where my grandma used to live, they used to have Al Capone there's a park across the street from where my grandma lives. They found bodies from Al Capone like in that park buried there.
That's crazy.
They just like wherever you can bury it, wherever it's the darkest. And you're like they did find bodies there. They're just like, they usually have like a stomping ground that they like to dispose of people. It's interesting. It's interesting.
It's wild the lengths that they go to make people disappear, essentially. Oof. If I remember correctly, there was a movie called Donnie Brasco, and they actually showed like the execution of one of the guys and them like dismembering the body and everything. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, you would think they wouldn't do it, but they would.
And if I remember correctly, it was Al Pacino and Johnny Depp in that movie. That was a wild movie because he was an undercover cop. All right.
Interesting theory.
So possible theory of many. Number three, probably the most infamous. Had Hoffa buried under Section 107
MetLife
in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yes.
This theory was mentioned by the hitman Donald Tony the Greek Francos.
Yes, he got arrested, right? Like, that's a whole nother Iceman? That's not Iceman. Sorry. God. It's a whole nother person. Sorry.
Because Tony the Greek, usually it's kind of... So in a 1989 book, well, Playboy magazine, I should say, correction, Playboy magazine interview, That's where it was mentioned. But again, this was another thing where the FBI had no supporting evidence. There were no remains found when the stadium was demolished, accordingly.
I'm going to say,
Allegedly. So, who knows? And, the whole stadium was taken care of in 2010. They didn't feel that it was legitimate or credible enough to even go there during the demolition.
let me lift
into
up a coliseum. Let me see if it's under there. Like, how would you even, like so many people are like, just don't look, like he's not, they even said you're never going to find him. Like, he's just, don't look. Like, they were just, there's been claims where he was in a bin, like they dug him in the ground in the bin.
And they dumped him in the whatchamacallit, in the dump.
Yeah, where they said you'll just never, or no, they put him in a bin and they dug a
steel
hole
drum.
and they put him in they
lit
covered
him
it.
on fire.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it literally could be anything.
Pretty much. Woof. So what's generally agreed upon regarding Jimmy's disappearance? Because there's also some theories that he may have faked his death. A lot of people don't believe that that's the case. So the main theory is that people believe that a hit was placed on Jimmy by, a mafia member, a potential enemy, because he was planning his Teamsters comeback and potentially threatening the control of the union's pension fund or their reputation. So he kept, and technically, if I remember correctly, he was supposed to serve a 13-year prison sentence, but then he got, a little pardon from President Richard Nixon. But Richard Nixon put his, little stipulation where he wasn't able to go back and be the president of the union again. So it's really strange that even with that, and he was going to argue, he was trying to sue and battle it because he really wanted to be the president of the whole Teamsters union again. But yeah, with that, never came to fruition. That's why he was kind of meeting with these mafia members that were also part of the union and whatnot. But
Could it have been, I'm so curious now. I'm like, could it have been that he was in witness protection and that they swooped him up like that to say he was abducted and that, somebody put a hit on him and he must be dead. But it ends up being that he actually went into witness protection and that's why the FBI are like, no, none of this happened. No. You know what I mean? Like, they already kind of know where he is, probably.
maybe.
I mean, he's probably long gone now, but in both scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know there was
Interesting theory.
It is among many. I bet you that's how
one of the
everybody
few that I
feels.
haven't seen about witness protection.
I mean, it would be so let's just say the two mobs blew him off.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they knew he was working with an inside person. Maybe that's why Nixon let him off of those charges. So that he could be an informant, and he went back to go meet with those people, but they already knew that he probably was an informant, and they had wanted nothing to do with him. And the FBI is like, what a perfect excuse to switch you out into witness protection.
Man, Richard Nixon had a crazy mix of people around him, huh? Because wasn't he also working with Elvis Presley?
He was
to be
weird.
like a spy?
And wasn't he had that Watergate scandal too?
Yes,
so
he did have
he was
Watergate.
also embroidered
That's
and
what
stuff.
kind of put him into hot water, no pun intended.
Literally. But
Ay, ay,
it was
ay.
almost like they were similar. For him to go, you can't ever do that again.
Working man. So, in essence, was anybody blamed for Jimmy's disappearance? Surprisingly not. I thought somebody would have been blamed because in that car that he went, with that group of people with, they did find blood. But they didn't charge anything about it. They're just like, that's weird. That's kind of like it.
Oh, it's weird as they're taking money from the mafia and putting it in their pocket. Oh, that's really weird. There's blood there. I'm going to go clean that. And you just start cleaning the blood. The evidence? What evidence? No evidence.
Or something like that. And I think even one of the dogs was able to, they sniffed it out as well, if I remember correctly. It was wild. I was like, oh, that's strange. But even with that, and knowing they even kind of pretty much have a good idea about the three people that were in the vehicle that he was in. Even with that, no one was definitively arrested.
Pile of money is shoved on the table towards the cops. Don't say anything. He's dead. He's under the
He's gone.
Life Stadium. And it was
That's
under the
pretty much
MetLife
it.
Stadium.
So nobody was arrested, nobody convicted. And there were numerous people that were suspects. So
Crazy.
members of organized crime. And the FBI never found conclusive evidence enough to bring any criminal charges to any of them.
That's crazy. Did they drop the case yet? Like, did they close case it?
Oh, I mean, technically,
Sure, at this point.
technically they did have, a time of his demise and everything.
Okay, so they just were like, he's dead, guys.
Pretty much, because
Dead.
they're kind of like, that's it.
That's so that like kind of points towards like no witness protection because he's dead. He's dead. We already put a date on it and everything, which is.
Yep, which is crazy. I don't know if there's any like symbolism to the years or if it's just something after a certain amount of time that they just kind of like call it quits. But he was declared dead 7 years after he went missing. So
7 years isn't a whole lot of time though. Like you see like the Madeleine McCain or like the disappeared, like people who are just like Natalie Holloway, like all those people who disappeared, they're still like missing people. They aren't declared quite dead unless the family asked for that. The family would be like, "Can you please declare him dead so I can collect on his own rights?"
and have my peace of mind or whatnot.
Yeah, that because I know there's some cases going on right now where the family immediately requested that they declare this person dead that's in news right now, where it's like okay, but yeah, it still feels like a pretty short time to say he's dead.
Yeah, you think we'd at least like 10 years.
You
Give a
think
little extra time. I don't know.
maybe 15 years, and maybe like he would still be alive if he was alive.
Just give him until like a rough estimate of when you think he would have expired. So like
Yeah.
2012 maybe.
Yeah, like a reasonable time. Like
Yeah,
what is the average years that somebody lives?
Not like super old. I mean, I guess the life expectancy, a lot of people live until like their 80s or 90s now.
The mob has the gun saying, "Make it 7 years, make it count."
Yes, yeah.
It's very interesting because there is a lot of like he got in the car with people he knew.
Yeah.
It felt like it
Essentially,
wasn't
otherwise-
investigated as
yeah.
much as it should have been. But then again,
They felt it was enough, I guess. Anyway, so yep. Technically, his death was declared on July 30th, 1982. And that's pretty much it. It's like
it opened and closed. Like it's kind of like there's a lot of information of he said, she said, but the details are still like quite sparse.
yeah, it's wild. And everybody keeps coming up with all these theories. I even read one that there was, and this one was actually pretty recent, about a lawyer coming on. He was one of the most well-known like mafia lawyers. And he's like, yeah, I know what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. And I know exactly where he's buried too. And I feel comfortable like saying this stuff because a lot of the people
Everybody dead.
yeah, pretty much. Now, a lot of the people that I protected at the time have passed away. And she's like, oh, there's one point, I forgot if it's like Hoboken or something like that.
Makes sense.
He's like, around there, there's like one point. He didn't even give like the exact location. He's just like, yeah, there's a point over here. And then at that point, that's where he's buried.
Crazy that it would be so close
All right.
to where, I mean, close is relative because it actually happened in where? It happened where he got abducted.
Yeah.
It happened
Michigan.
not Michigan and not New Jersey. So to like take somebody from Michigan to Hoboken, New Jersey, I don't know. The theories, I get it.
Yeah, it's wild. But definitely an interesting read.
It was.
I'm sure I didn't get a chance to watch any kind of videos or documentaries about it, but I'm sure there's quite a couple about it. And there's plenty of stories out there. If you could definitely look up and see that anybody that's got a theory generally has a book attached to where, what may have happened to them. So definitely take a look into it. It's interesting. If you have heard of any different theories, please let us know.
Please like, please subscribe, thumbs up. We'd appreciate it.
Let us know what you'd like to see next.
Yes, and if you enjoyed these episodes, don't forget, again, to like, subscribe,
ding
comment.
that bell, please.
Yes.
Ding, ding.
And thank you for watching us, and stay safe, everyone.